Get ready for the most important dictation. 3, 2, 1, start. The context, climate change, the thoughts that immediately follow are melting polar regions, forest fires, floods, and all sorts of extreme weather that could affect our livelihood. There is always more to it. It is not simply the occurrence of extreme weather, but also a slow, gradual, irreversible change in the Earth's regular natural processes. These processes include migration activities and breeding cycles of the animals, birds, and fishes, effects on biodiversity, effects on oceanic currents, and many more. The result of the global climatic issues may not be felt uniformly throughout the world, but they affect every individual in one way or another. No person is spared. As we can see currently, every summer breaks the record high temperatures of the previous year's summer. New, surprising climatic events are not surprising anymore. The earth is changing is a sure fact. Climate change is real, and there is no argument for confirming its existence. If not addressed with immediate actions, climate change may result in an irreversible problem. The traces of climate change can be noted to begin right from the onset of the Industrial Revolution. The pacing of the factories for mass scale production of goods resulted in the extensive use of raw materials. These raw materials now being interconverted to finished goods showed great potential for profit making, and thus these forms of businesses were adopted rapidly throughout the world. These waste products got circulated and established a flow of motion, thus spreading across the planet. The poisonous gases in the air through the automotive industry are a problem that cannot be ignored. Eventually, the two world wars and the wars that followed after them also damaged the environment in serious ways. The nuclear weapons used resulted in the fallout of radioactivity in the atmosphere permanently. Considering all such observations, we can state that climate change began in the mid 19th century and gradually increased over every decade. Climate change is also a natural phenomenon but is majorly influenced by human activities. Climate change is a naturally occurring process. It existed well before humanity was born. However, the natural processes were much more balanced and helped nature to maintain a systematic balance in the atmosphere. Some of the natural processes that cause climate change are volcanoes, forest fires, melting of glaciers, and forest fires. When volcanoes erupt, they throw out enormous amounts of ash and gases in the air along with molten lava. The ashes result in an increase in dust in the air and poisonous gases like sulfur dioxides and carbon monoxides affect the supply of pure oxygen in the air. Forest fires cause the destruction of entire forests, including the wildlife, and thus degrade the biodiversity. They also cause the buildup of ash and hazardous gases in the air. The melting of ancient ice in the polar regions release a huge amount of carbon monoxide, which is a major threat to global warming. Climate change is affecting the food supply chain. It also released viruses from the ancient era that were dormant and trapped in the ice through melting. It is being seen that the release of certain gases in the air is a major cause of climate change. Undoubtedly, human beings are becoming the main reason for the climate change scenario. The population burst is to blame as the primary cause. The rapidly increasing population causes a great strain on the resources being used and thus resulting in more and more use of the natural resources. Eventually, more and more goods and services are being produced and thus resulting in more and more pollution. The use of large scale production, factories, improper management of waste, and overuse of material needs to be alerted to limit the impact on climate. Vehicular emissions contribute to more than 60% of air pollution alone. Humans, despite being aware of the problems, are ignorant about solving them. The control measures are well researched by global scientists and adequate steps are also suggested to every nation. The steps are needed to be followed in a timely manner, and the goals, if met in time, will result in a better future. However, if not met yet, is possible to expect extinction levels and catastrophic changes in our planet. Simple measures are required to limit the impacts of climate change. These include switching to renewable sources of energy and eliminating the use of fossil fuels, limiting the consumption of red meat, and thus reducing the climate change impact caused by animal husbandry, making use of hydrogen fuel, cell charged vehicles, and eliminating the pollution caused by the exhausts of automobiles. Frankly, the simplest of them all is the measure of planting more and more trees and purifying the air. Effective disposal of waste and finding ways to degrade the non usable waste is also an effective option to limit climate change. Stop. थैंक यू।
क्या चाहिए बदले में हमें? बस एक प्यारा सा लाइक, तो इस वीडियो को लाइक कर देना और सब्सक्राइब कर दो यार। सब्सक्राइब यार, सभी की मांगे मैं पूरी करता हूँ। मेरी एक ही तो मांग रहती है कि सब्सक्राइब कर दो चैनल को, जिन्होंने नहीं किया है कर दो यार, आज जोड़ के विनती है।